Practice Council, who's joining us in studio. Ignatius, thank you for making time for us. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Clement, and morning, listeners.
So, as someone who comes from the Legal Practice Council, maybe just explain to us what your core mandate is. What are your responsibilities?
So the Legal Practice Council has a couple of issues that they need to deal with. Mm-hmm. So firstly, it's to regulate the entry into the profession, not to say that it's a barrier to entry into the profession, but to make sure that people entering into the profession are properly qualified and suitably experienced to service the public. Then it is also to protect the public and to promote the interests of the public. So for that purpose, we also focus on ensuring that there's pro bono services offered to members of the public. And then, of course, the most prominent one in everybody's minds is the discipline of practitioners when they fail to adhere to the standards that's set by the regulatory body.
Yeah, and we'll touch on each of these issues. I want to maybe kick off with the issue of unemployed LLB graduates. What role can you play as the Legal Practice Council to help young graduates get absorbed into the job market? Because often you hear people, I have a feature on the show, I call it the unemployment hour. And every time we do it, the number of graduates, LLB graduates who say, I'm sitting at home, I'm unemployed. What do you think is the problem there? And how do you as the Legal Practice Council help sort of these young ones get absorbed into the job market?
So Clement, I think we do have a very serious issue with unemployment, as everybody knows. And for me, a big part of the problem comes the unreasonable expectations that people have when they go to study. People watch TV shows. I remember in my days it was LA Law and Ally McBeal and those things, and they see all these glamorous things happening on TV, and they think this is the ideal opportunity for me. The first thing I want to say to candidates is that law is not what you see on TV. Law is hard work. Candidates need to realize that it's a calling. You're not going to become rich and popular overnight. But then also, I think the problem area is that the universities turn out candidates at a much higher rate than the market is able to absorb them. The fact of the matter is, legal services are not cheap, unfortunately. Majority of the population cannot afford legal services. And as such, the opportunity for people to enter into the market is not as great as we would want it to be. One of the key focus areas for the LPC is to look at the implementation of the legal sector code, in the hope that implementing the legal sector code would open up the market to more entrants, instead of focusing the work on a few small niche firms or large niche firms, but to actually expand the opportunity for other members in the fraternity.
But law, in your assessment, it's still quite an attractive choice for young people, yeah?
It is very attractive, and we see it because of the number of candidates who graduate every year.
Yeah.
I was at UNISA not too long ago, and fair enough, it wasn't only law students that they spoke about, but UNISA commented on the fact that they graduated more than 40,000 students for that year, which is a staggering amount, especially if you look at the unemployment in the country.
Yeah. Just talk to us briefly about the remuneration of candidate attorneys. Some attorneys have been saying this is long overdue. We've always called for the minimum wage. What informed the decision to introduce the minimum wage, and what kind of impact do you see it making?
Look, I think there was no option but to do that. The exploitation that's been happening in the market was just staggering. There were so many candidates who were even willing to work for free just to have the opportunity. And then the type of experience that they gain, especially from those principals who would not pay them a proper salary, doesn't qualify or equip them for the job that they want to enter eventually. I remember years ago when I did my articles, I was paid a salary of 2,500 Rand. And now I'm talking about more than 20 years ago. And there are candidates today who are still paid 2,500 Rand. Now, that cannot be. It's not a salary that you can live on. And I think, especially with the cost of studies nowadays, how do you actually afford to repay your study loans? So it's really an important factor to make sure that people who enter the profession enter in a manner which doesn't set them on the back foot already.
Yeah.
Because it's that, back foot that actually promulgates the idea of maybe, taking money where you shouldn't have taken it.
Yeah. And I'm sure some of these companies just take advantage because people who want to do their articles are so desperate.
Absolutely.
So you take them, you give them whatever, because also the high levels of unemployment. And as you say, there are not a lot of organizations that can absorb these graduates. I want us to talk a little bit now about something we were discussing on the show yesterday, about this is what the SIU said. They revealed that there are dodgy lawyers that have brazenly looted state funds with bogus medical legal claims amounting to billions of rands. And it's so disappointing. And I asked yesterday, who watches the watchers? That's not the kind of conduct you expect from lawyers. And of course, anybody can.
There's other bodies, the LPFF, through the LSSA, also communicate to practitioners on a quite a regular basis, specific items of concern to say, watch out for this, be careful, do not do this. So no practitioner has got a reason to say, I did not know. As a practitioner, you knew that you are not entitled to take money which is not your fees. And the LPC acts very strictly against those practitioners. Unfortunately, I must admit that the process does take long. If we take some of the recent examples, Nonquba, for example, that matter took a number of years because it's a legal process. In as much as the Act allows us to bring an urgent application to court for suspension of a practitioner in cases of misappropriation, those matters can be dragged out by appeals and reviews. In that specific matter, the matter went as far as the Constitutional Court.
This is Nonquba.
Exactly. So, and again, then it creates the impression that the LPC does nothing. But there are legal processes to follow.
And what's the status of this matter, though?
So on that specific matter, we were in court at the beginning of August and for the final striking application, and we're still awaiting the judgment. So we are confident that we will get a strong judgment against this practitioner.
Yeah. Yeah, because, some of the things that they do, sometimes they get awarded millions of rands. That's money that's supposed to go to the claimants, and they just pay some of the claimants only 6,000 rand a month when they've received millions and millions of rands. In some cases, they go to different courts using the same case, but arguing it in different courts just so they can be awarded these amounts of money. There was a gentleman in the Eastern Cape as well who had, Cut Blanche had reported on him as well. Have you guys followed up on that as the Legal Practice Council?
So the Eastern Cape, my fellow director there would be responsible. I'm not 100% familiar with the matter, but I'm sure you would have acted on that matter.
Okay. So I want to check with the Legal Practice Council if you agree with, because I had the health minister yesterday, Dr. Aaron Motsoladi, who said we are actually going to give these lawyers an opportunity to withdraw some of the claims if they know that they are fraudulent claims. And I know that there are several Gauteng lawyers who suddenly withdrew these medical malpractice claims upon investigation, and they were telling the SIU that they were not aware that their clients had actually died, which I really don't believe it, but that's really their reasoning. Do you agree with the health minister that let's give these lawyers amnesty, that if they have started to go to the courts and list matters, and they know that those are fraudulent matters, then they must withdraw them because no monies have been stolen yet? Or do you actually think it's important that the investigators go after them, even for instituting matters that they know are fraudulent?
So I can understand the minister's approach to say, let's offer amnesty and let the guys come forward so that we clear the system of these matters. But from the LPC side, I've got a major concern in allowing somebody who's already made themselves guilty of the conduct. The intent is there. It's a similar situation very often in cases of misappropriation. The practitioner would say, okay, but it's fine, I've paid back the money. The fact of the matter is, if you've gone into Checkers and you've stolen a chocolate bar, the fact that you came back the next day and brought it back doesn't mean you didn't steal it.
There must still be accountability.
There needs to be accountability.
All right, it's 21 minutes now. After 10 o'clock, we're in conversation with Ignatius Briel, who is the Gauteng Director for the Legal Practice Council. I see some of your WhatsApp voice notes coming through. If you want to join this conversation, 011-883-0702. You can send us your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702.
The Midday Report.
Weekdays,
12 to 1.
What's the plan to deal with the buildings once they have alternative accommodation?
The city wants to convert them into affordable housing and also student accommodation.
Are you talking to the Minister of Housing then to try and expedite this?
Yes. The mayor through the MMC for Human Settlement, because that is his department, they're saying that they are in talks with the National to unlock funding for the transit accommodation for all the people who are in the bad buildings.
Dr. Mkini Twakwa.
the Midday Report,
With Mandy Wiener.
12 to 1 on 702.
702.
AI may eventually take over, but what's for certain is that smart machines are already operating all over the world right now. So stay ahead with am.co.za. For 11 years, they've been the leader in CNC and printing machines like CNC routers, large format printers, vinyl cutters, laser cutters, plasma cutters, DTF printers, and many more. Visit am.co.za showrooms in Sunny Rock, Joburg, and in Cape Town as well. Or WhatsApp hi to 060-600-6000 for more information. am.co.za. Achievement matters.
I'm Delray Fossler, Iveco South Africa's first female director. Iveco is proud to launch the Career Incubator this Women's Month, a bold step in our commitment to fostering gender equality and providing valuable career opportunities in a traditionally male-dominated sector. Through strategic collaborations, 56 young women have the opportunity to gain industry experience, training, support, and employment in the career industry. Visit careerincubator.co.za to find out more.
And in your top stories this hour, announcing 220 million reasons to invest in Vukile. That's how many shopper visits Vukile malls attract every year. And the number is growing. We know our customers' shopping needs through detailed consumer behavior studies, so we're always aligned with ever-changing retail trends. Invest now in Vukile's diversified portfolio of retail properties. There are 220 million good reasons you should. Vukile, building communities, growing value.
Gauteng, thanks to you, we found the local businesses that bring our province to life. Now it's time to cast your votes to crown the best of the best in the Gauteng's Greatest Awards with 702 and Yoko. Go to primemediaplus.com today and vote for your favorite local business. Show them your support. Let's celebrate the amazing places and spaces that make this a community we love. Gauteng's Greatest Awards with 702 and Yoko. Don't just get paid with Yoko, run it with Yoko.
As the fog rolls down Table Mountain and the sun rises over the Cape, thousands of runners from every corner of SA and the globe will come together to seek gold, glory, and the highest marathon prize money in Africa. Will you be running with us at the 2024 Sanlam Cape Town Marathon while helping us to become Africa's first major? Be a part of history on the 19th and 20th of October. Enter now at capetownmarathon.com. The 2024 Sanlam Cape Town Marathon is brought to you by Sanlam and proudly supported by 702. 702.
The Clement Manyatela Show.
Let's walk the talk.
25 minutes after 10 o'clock, we're in conversation with the Legal Practice Council this morning. And I'm asking you, if you want to join the conversation, you can call us or send us a WhatsApp voice note. Have you interfaced with the Legal Practice Council? Are you in the industry, in the legal fraternity? Or maybe you're not in the legal fraternity, but you've lodged some complaints maybe in the past, or you've got some suggestions around how the Legal Practice Council can better do their work. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. Ignatius, I want us to talk a little bit about hopeless cases in court and perhaps the ethics of hopeless cases in court, because this is a phenomena that we have seen where lawyers approach the court on behalf of their clients, even when they know, right, that there are no good or reasonable prospects of success. What should happen to such lawyers? I do remember that there was a judge who called out the conduct of some of these lawyers and advocates for bringing such cases to court when they themselves or should know that those cases are hopeless. What can you do as the legal? Do you wait for someone to complain about the behavior of such advocates or lawyers before you can act? And just as a legal practice counsel, what do you think of this phenomena?
Those matters are always very difficult to deal with. Every client always thinks their case is strong. It's like a mother always thinks her child is the most beautiful. So the complaints we see more often are complaints where practitioners would have said to their clients, look, you do not have a case and I'm not going to proceed with the matter. We seldom see complainants actually come to us to say, you know what, my attorney took my case, but it was a bad case and he didn't advise me properly. Yes, there is an ethical duty on practitioners to advise their clients appropriately, to indicate to them the prospects of success. And yes, there would be cases where it's really serious misconduct for taking money on a matter which you know that there's absolutely no prospects. But those matters would need to be considered on a case-by-case basis.
There was a judge who said, who directed that if you feel that there is already money that's been paid, the lawyers had to pay back that money, especially when they took the money knowing very well that the cases are hopeless. But as you say, it's on a case-by-case matter. Are you concerned, though, as the legal practice around the behavior of some of the advocates who are, part of your members? I was reading Justice Edwin Cameron's actually delivered a speech sometime they say in July when he received the Sydney and Felicia Kendridge Award. And one of the things he said was that, and I quote here, there are advocates who are skilled liars, dissemblers, manipulators, and they employ an implement of legal practice to bedevil and confuse and dismay the judiciary, and the profession should take action. How long do you take to investigate the conduct of advocates? And I'll give you an example. For instance, when Advocate Dalimpofu said shut up to a colleague at the state capture inquiry, how long does it take for you to investigate something like that? And based on your code of conduct and what you expect of your legal practitioners, is that expected of a behavior?
So firstly, in terms of the behavior, I think there's a general duty of owed to the court of respect. And unfortunately, we see that it's become common practice that the court is not afforded the respect it deserves. And it's not only the High Court, and it's not only advocates. I recently met with the Chief Magistrate in Pretoria, who actually complained about the same thing, even with candidate practitioners who simply do not respect the court. It's not excusable, but one might understand somebody who's very senior to be more forceful in their arguments. But seriously, for a candidate practitioner, even to be disrespectful to a magistrate, and it comes back to what I said earlier, that the candidates see the behavior, especially nowadays when the court proceedings are televised more often than not. And it creates an impression of acceptable behavior. But clearly, this kind of behavior is not acceptable. In terms of how long it takes, it does take long. You can understand, once again, especially if you're dealing with senior practitioners who are skilled at arguing matters, there's a lot of back and forth happening. We have had successes. You might be aware of Advocate Tefu.
Therefore, yeah.
But yes, the matter against Advocate Mpofu is still ongoing as well.
Geez, that's been a long time.
It has been a long time. So the matter had been before an ICE who had made recommendations. The processes do require that the recommendations get considered by counsel, who then needs to consider whether all appropriate processes were followed and correctly followed. Because you might have also seen some judgment recently where we've been criticized for failure to follow the processes correctly.
Yeah.
So the council has the duty to make sure that processes are correct. In that specific matter, the matter was referred back for consideration by the investigation committee.
Okay. But if there's a lawyer out there who's listening to you and is wondering, can I say shut up though in a court of law or in a setup like the state capture, any kind of inquiry? Can you say shut up to your colleague or someone you're cross-examining?
It would be very difficult for me to say yes or no. The general principle is you need to behave in a very respectful manner to your colleagues as well as to the court. To comment at this stage on whether that was acceptable or not, that would not be appropriate for me.
All right, because that matter is still being processed. It's 10:31 now. Let's get the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. I see your calls. I see your WhatsApp.